Welcome to Mystic Realms Recap. Links are in the description below. Please show some love of the author and me. On to the show. Muyuan City? Lin You was slightly startled. Yeah, isn't there a turmoil in Muyuan City recently? A lot of territorial residents have fled to our Huangsha city, and Director Shui is busy arranging them. As Su Zhong spoke, he secretly observed Lin Yu's expression, for fear that their unauthorized claims would make Lin You unhappy. Fortunately, Lin You didn't get angry because of this. Instead, he showed a smile. Good job. Now Huangsha City is short of people. You can charge more if you can. Don't worry about the problem of resources. Su Zhong was shocked when he heard the words, and said excitedly, understood. I will try my best to do it. Well, let's go. Lin You nodded at him, then turned around and left the farm, rushing back toward the territory. Now that the breeding farm has been established, it is only necessary to breed more of these two breeding pigs and gradually expand the scale. I believe that it will take a long time to produce a large amount of third-order wild boar, and there should be no problem in supplying meat to Huangsha City. The extra can be made into various foods and sold to passing merchants and practitioners, which is also a good way to make money. So what to do now? It is to collect resources as soon as possible to raise the building level. The higher the building level, the higher the efficiency will naturally be, and the more perfect the function will be. By then, won't a lot of magic energy flow into his pocket? The more he thought about it, the more Lin You looked forward to. And just as he was rushing back to the territory, a reminder sounded in his ear. Congratulations! The experience of the wood spirit has reached the full value, and it meets the requirements for upgrading to the 7th level. Do you want to upgrade? Is there another troop upgrade? Lin You looked happy, and immediately passed through the vine forest and returned to the territory. Sure enough, I found that one of the 6th order wood spirits lit up with a burst of white light. Lin You remembered. This is one of the 5 wood spirits that he left on purpose and inherited the natural control skills, and it is also the 2nd batch of summoned troops. Without thinking too much, I just chose to upgrade. In an instant, the light on Mu Ling's body became brighter, and it began to change and advance rapidly. To Lin Yu's surprise, this wood spirit did not grow a wreath of thorns like Lingxi, and the little butterflies on the side did not condense into a body-protecting fairy. Instead, it turned into a fluorescent green light shield, protecting its entire body, and even the staff in his hand gradually grew luxuriant branches. Name, Elf Messenger. Race, Plant. Level 7, 0/2500. Strength, 770. Physique, 770. Agility, 845. Spirit, 886. Skills, Control of Nature, Advanced, Breath of Nature, Single Healing, Coiled Thorns, Healing Light, Burst of the Power of Nature, heals a wide range of allies, with extremely strong effect. Introduction, Wood Spirit is one of the branches of the 7th order promotion. It has a strong affinity for nature, is good at group healing, and is called the Messenger of Nature together with the Goblin. Group Therapy. Lin Yu's eyes lit up instantly. Unexpectedly, this other branch of the 7th order wood spirit is actually the main healer, and it is also an extremely powerful group healer. And after the completion of the advanced stage, the body of the elf has become the same size as the elf, flying through the air, and scattered pieces of fluorescent light, like butterflies dancing in the grass. Lin You is still very satisfied with this branch. Plant-type units may not be as aggressive as other units, but their healing abilities are nothing to say. Now, with the addition of group therapy, the survivability of his units has been raised to a new level. As long as the body is not destroyed, it can continue to grow and never end. Consumption can kill the enemy. After a while, Lin You put away his agitated mood and came under the tree of life. Today I traveled so many places, I didn't even have a bite to eat. Now I can finally take a good rest. Sit down next to the wooden house, and click on the chat channel to check while eating. However, he found that the lords were discussing matters about King Xingyao. You said, can King Xingyao return safely from Yuansha continent? You dare to say such things, don't you die? The strength of King Xingyao is so strong, it's easy to come back. But, there are so many 10th tier lords over there, isn't it dangerous to be alone in the past? Haha, little rookie, don't you think that the 10th rank can hurt King Xingyao? 666, this is probably the funniest joke I've ever heard. What puzzled Lin You was. Facing the new lord's question, the old lords all laughed and sent messages to make fun of him. This made him bewildered. There is no way for the 10th rank to hurt King Xingyao? What does it mean? However, before he could think about it, a piece of news suddenly caught his eye. Little rookies, didn't you realize that the level of lords and troops is a hurdle every 3 levels? You don't really think that above the 9th level, there is only one level at the 10th level, right? Above the 9th level. There is more than one level of 10th. Lin Yu was startled immediately, and even stopped eating. He always thought that the 10th rank was the top of the lord and represented the strongest combat power in the entire continent. But looking at what these old lords said, is it not? Shocked, he put down the food in his hand and hurriedly stared at the chat message, daring not to miss anything. As predicted. Facing the doubts of the new lords, several messages jumped one after another. Don't guess, the level of lords in arms is a hurdle every 3 levels. Above the 9th level, it is naturally impossible to have only one level of 10th level, but 3, but it is too far away from us, not many people mention it. Once the lord crosses the 9th rank and reaches the 10th rank, his strength will undergo earth-shaking changes, and he is no longer bound by ordinary rules. We also call this rank a holy rank. Above that, is the 11th level, which is called the demigod level. The current level of King Xingyao is the 11th level, and even the kings of all other kingdoms are at this level, and don't forget, the kingdom on top of that, there are empires that rule. Now you should understand, why do we say that King Xingyao can easily travel back and forth between 2 continents? The entire principality channel was silent. The new lords who asked questions just now stopped talking. Everyone was speechless by the shocking fact, including Lin You himself. Although he had already guessed, the level of the lord may not be so simple. But when he really confirmed it, his heart couldn't stop trembling. Level 11, demigod level. How powerful is that? He couldn't imagine it. Just being a 10th tier duchy king is already out of reach, not to mention this higher 11th tier. As for the 12th order that represents the top. Although the lords didn't say it clearly, Lin Yu guessed something in his heart, which made his complexion even more solemn. But think carefully. Just as the lord said just now. These levels are too far away for them now. Now he is going to die just to upgrade to the 7th rank, how dare he think so far? So soon, Lin Yu picked up his mood and finished his food quickly. While watching the chats of the lords, I was busy in the territory and took care of the planting manner in the territory. The sun in the sky also began to gradually sink in the west. In a blink of an eye, 5 days have passed. During these 5 days, there were no major events worthy of Lin Yu's attention in the chat channel. Everything is as calm as water. It's like the calm before the storm. And Lin Yu also took advantage of these few days to collect materials, earn magic energy, and upgrade all the basic buildings in Huangsha City to the 2nd tier. The entire Huangsha City is thriving and developing rapidly, and the population finally broke through the 5,000 mark. This is also due to the annexation of Muyuan City's population, which has attracted many craftsmen. After those basic buildings began to operate, many people were attracted and settled in Huangsha City. And with such rapid population growth, Huangsha City, which originally only had a radius of 1 kilometer, has also begun to expand, and community markets have been built outside the city. People come and go every morning, and it looks very lively. Many cultivators who returned from hunting in the Gobi directly sold them at the market, selling various monster corpses and precious materials, or equipment, attracting passing merchants and tourists to stop and ask for prices. As for the original Huangsha City, now it has become the busiest place. Many cultivators who came to visit the city entered the city, made equipment, bought healing potions, and made various preparations for the next Gobi adventure. Among them, the most popular is naturally the Lord statue in the central square of the city. Although the current Lord statue is only Tier 1, it can speed up the recovery of injuries by 10%. This is definitely a very practical gain for those cultivators who go to the Gobi to hunt monsters to earn magic crystals, and sometimes even save a small life. So every time they set off, they did not forget to pray in front of the Lord statue to gain territory benefits. All in all, Huangsha City is now finally starting to get on the right track and has a certain scale. Lin Yu's power of faith also doubled from 2 or 3 o'clock every day to 4 or 5 o'clock now. You must know that even those cities with a scale of 10,000 people cannot achieve such a growth rate. It's enough to see how strong the people's sense of belonging to Huangsha City is. And today, it happened to be the agreed day for the handover of the caravan. So early in the morning, Lin You asked Lingxi to lead 2 7th-tier troops and 100 6th-tier troops into the Gobi to pick up the caravan from the Fire Country. It wasn't until mid-afternoon that a huge team finally appeared at the end of the line of sight. Come on! The caravan that went to the Fire Country is back. On the city wall, several stewards who had been waiting there for a long time shouted excitedly. After all, this was their first time doing business with other principalities, so there was no room for sloppiness. Even Shui Changgue, the leader, said excitedly, "It's really a caravan, let's go, we'll go over to meet them." After he finished speaking, he hurried out of the city with a group of stewards, personally greeted the caravan that came back from the Gobi, and led the surrounding passers-by to stop and watch. Is this the team of the Lord of Huangsha City? It's spectacular. This number, I'm afraid it has already exceeded 100, right? It's really a big deal to send 100 6th-order caravans. Look at the 2 plant dragons in the sky, are they the 2 that solved the 6th-order snake group before? It seems to be true. It is said that the 2 dragons are of the 7th order, and the Lord of Huangsha City even sent them out. Those caravans are really lucky. There was a lot of discussion. And the caravan, under their watchful eyes, passed through the market and slowly drove into the city. It wasn't until after all arrived safely that Lingxi rushed back to the territory with those plant troops and returned to Lin You. Thanks for your hard work. In the territory, Lin You, who had been waiting at the entrance for a long time, said to the plants. This was the first time he had let the troops perform the task independently, and he was still a little nervous. Fortunately, nothing unexpected happened, so he finally felt relieved. After briefly checking the condition of the plants, I asked them to rest in the territory. He, on the other hand, came to the Tree of Life and checked the transaction status through the territory management interface. This time, the caravan brought back a large number of special products and other commodities from the Fire Kingdom. After all of them are sold, it will be a huge amount of income. Including the fortified grain they shipped and sold this time, it should double the capital of Huangsha City. Finally, we can start thinking about the construction and expansion of the city. After thinking about it, Lin You got up and was going to talk to Shui Changgue about the expansion. Unexpectedly, he just got up when a loud shout suddenly exploded in the entire chat channel. You brats, I've come back from a stroll in the True Spirit realm and the Yuansha realm. Hurry up and see me, I have something for you. This voice can be said to be extremely abrupt and extremely loud. Lin You almost stumbled, and the entire chat channel exploded instantly. This voice. Could it be King Xingyao? It seems to be true. Could it be that King Xingyao is back? Listening to this, he not only went to the Yuansha realm, but also went to the True Spirit realm for a walk. Damn it. You still went to the real spirit world? This is too fierce. Among the high-ranking lords, there are many who have seen King Xingyao, and they immediately heard the voice of King Xingyao. Unexpectedly, after a few days, King Xingyao actually came back safely. And what shocked them even more? Not long after King Xingyao's voice fell, the remaining 8 duchy kings appeared one after another. Congratulations to the return of King Xingyao. Congratulations to King Xingyao Xingcha. Dare to ask why the king summoned us? Boss Xingyao, why did it take you so long to come back? The news of the kings all exudes golden light and is placed at the top of the chat channel. 8 duchy kings appeared together. Where have the lords seen such a scene? He immediately closed his mouth, daring not to say more. Then, I heard King Xingyao's loud and rough voice resounding again. If you don't come back, do you want to have a New Year's dinner there? Thanks to those old guys from the kingdoms running fast, they only slaughtered a few tents to avenge Tianyan and Manhwa, which is really hard to dispel my hatred. Come here quickly, get some resources, and go back to train the lords below. Next time on the battlefield of 10,000 realms, you must kill the true spirit realm and the Yuansha realm. The voice of King Xingyao kept reverberating in the ears of all the lords, making their ears buzzing. Hard to imagine. This man who rules a kingdom and 10 major duchies can be so rude and unrestrained. But what shocked them even more were the words spoken by King Xingyao. On this trip, he actually killed several 10th order lords. How many? They're all 10th level. And to put it so lightly, how strong does it have to be to do it? And the old thing he mentioned in his words, is it the same as him, the king of the kingdom? This is too fierce. Lin You never expected that the strength of this King Xingyao would be so terrifying. Go deep into the enemy's line, kill and inflict heavy losses on the enemy, and come back safe and sound. No wonder the kings of the principality respect him so much. Lin You finally understands now. At the same time, I couldn't help but look forward to it. According to the meaning of King Xingyao's words, it is to distribute resources to the kings of the major principalities to train the lords in their own land. Those were the resources that were obtained after killing several 10th orders, so it was definitely not that simple. Even on the chat channel, people began to speculate about what it would be like. Of course, this has to wait until their king goes to get the things back first, and there is no rush. Time flies. In a blink of an eye, a day has passed. When everyone was discussing what the resource King Xingyao said was, a prompt suddenly sounded in the minds of all the lords. Respected lords, Ji Xinghe, king, successfully used the attack order, and the Great Wild Country is about to be invaded by the monster plane. The attack order will last for 1 day. At that time, there will be a lot of space cracks in the territory of the Great Wilderness. Repel monsters and destroy space cracks. You will get various resource rewards, including sacred objects, architectural drawings, arms and props, etc. Attention, there are extremely powerful monsters in the space cracks, please deal with them carefully. The voice without the slightest emotion, accompanied by a loud rumbling sound, caused the entire sky of the Great Wild Country to vibrate violently. Immediately afterwards, the space shattered. One after another cracks, big and small, appeared in every corner of the Great Wild Country, as if to swallow everything around them. Some old lords are fine, but the newly arrived lords were all frightened by this sudden scene. What is this? Is it the resource that King Xingyao said? Monster plane invasion? Could there be monsters running out of these cracks? Am I right? There are sacred relics, architectural drawings, and army rewards? Fuck. Really? Haha, a crack just appeared near my territory. I have one here too. I'll go and see it first. After exclaiming, the lords responded. Immediately with their respective arms, they hurried towards the crack closest to them. Obviously, these space cracks were created by Ji Xinghe to provide resources for the lords below. Although there will be some risks, the rewards are extremely attractive. Relics, architectural drawings, arms, props. Either way, it is a very rare thing for them, even Lin You can't be spared. The most important thing is that Lin You found one of the cracks, which happened to appear in the north of Huangsha City, that is, near the location of Shenyang City. If he dared to hesitate, he immediately summoned all the arms and began to count the numbers. After the accumulation of experience in the past few days, the 5 wood spirits that he had specially left behind that would naturally control skills, and the other 15 beast-type units had all reached the 7th rank. With the addition of Lingxi and Qingting of royal blood, and the first 2 banshee vines, There are a total of 24 seventh orders, and their strength has far surpassed before. But Lin You learned to be smart this time. The sixth order arms only brought those value-added arms, and the main body was left in the territory by him. This is both safe and enjoys the experience bonus of the ancient tree of knowledge. Leaving Qingting and 5 seventh order blade shadow lions to guard the territory, he left the territory with 250 sixth order and 19 seventh order. The spectacular scene suddenly caused all passers-by to stop and watch. Soon, Lin You took the army through the mountains and forests and came to a broad plain 100 kilometers away from Huangsha City. In the distance, you can already see a city sitting on the edge of the plain, which is Xianyang City, one of the 3 cities near Huangsha City. What Lin You didn't expect was that the space crack just happened to appear less than 2 kilometers outside Xianyang City. Several lords have come first with their respective arms, watching from a distance around the crack. Someone is here again. Suddenly, the lords found Lin You and all looked at him, when he saw a few giant plant dragons beside him, and a large number of plant soldiers following him, their pupils shrank. No way. There are too many troops around Lin You. There are even more species of insects with reproductive ability than they are familiar with, and the variety is extremely exaggerated. Where have they seen such a scene before? They all suddenly got shocked and withdrew, and they all became vigilant. The most shocking among them was the lords of Futaba City and Xianyang City. Unlike other lords, as the lords closest to Huangsha City, they have long known about Lin Yu's deeds. From those plant arms, they can guess Lin Yu's identity and clearly know Lin Yu's terrifying strength. This is not. As soon as Lin You landed, Meng Qinggan, the lord of Shuangye City, greeted him with his troops and greeted Lin You. You must be the lord of Huangsha City, brother Lin You, right? You are, the lord of Futaba City? Lin You glanced at the mechanical hounds and mecha spiders beside Meng Qinggan, and immediately guessed Meng Qinggan's identity. After all, there is only one lord of the mechanical system nearby. This was also the first time for him to see the opponent's mechanical arms up close, and he couldn't help being a little surprised. Because he found out, whether it is a mechanical hound or a mecha spider, they are equipped with barrels, which seem to be powerful. There are several huge machines that have reached the 7th order level. No wonder the other party was able to rule Futaba City in such a short period of time, and it seemed that he had 2 brushes on his body. Meng Qinggan naturally didn't know what Lin You was thinking. Seeing that he could recognize him immediately, a smile appeared on his face. I didn't expect brother Lin You to recognize me. It seems that my previous gift was not given in vain, haha, that's natural, after all, we are also neighbors. Lin You nodded in response. As the saying goes, reach out and don't hit the smiling person. Since the other party has already shown himself, there is no need for him to reject the other party. Coupled with the appearance of this crack, the situation is still unclear, and it is naturally best not to take the initiative with other leaders. So he stayed there, chatting casually with Meng Qinggan, while secretly looking at the other lords. Fortunately, no lords above the 7th rank came here this time. All the lords who attended were 6th rank lords, and there were not many, only less than 10, and they should all be lords nearby. However, it is worth Lin Yu's attention that among these lords, there is a beast lord with Thunder Eagle and double-headed Jiao units, which seems to have come earlier. With more than 27th order arms around him, there are even a few more than him. Even the other people on the side have more or less a few or even a dozen 7th orders, and their strength should not be underestimated. And just as he looked at the others, the cracks in the plain finally moved. Crack! Only heard a crisp sound. The space that was shaking violently suddenly opened with a gap of dozens of meters. Suddenly, a terrifying beast roar sounded. Countless 6th order monsters emerged crazily directly from the cracks and spread out around, causing the entire plain to vibrate violently. A lot of monsters. Is this a monster invasion? This number is too exaggerated. I suggest that everyone work together to stop them. Agree. I'm in charge of this direction. Then I'm in charge of this. After the exclamation, the lords quickly reacted, and they all brought their respective arms to guard one side to block the monsters. Naturally, Lin You would not miss such an excellent opportunity to earn magic energy. After saying a word to Mangqingan, he rushed up with the plants to block the army of monsters spreading towards him. In an instant, various attacks flew in the sky. All the lords actually formed some kind of tacit understanding, each led the troops in one direction, and collided with the monster group, forcibly blocked their momentum. Roar! But at this moment, another thunderous roar sounded. A group of monsters that were a bit larger than the Sixth Order suddenly rushed out of the crack. Not good. It's a Seventh Order monster. The lords never expected that the Seventh Order monsters would appear in the space cracks so quickly, and they still appeared in groups. The number is huge, there are more than 100. Mixed in the group of monsters and spread out in all directions, the pressure on them suddenly increased, and the number of troops gradually began to be reduced. Even worse. These Seventh Order monsters are not only various, but also attack them from the ground, underground, and air. In the blink of an eye, many troops were attacked to death by them. It seems that the rewards of this space crack are not available to anyone. Fortunately, Lin You brought enough Tier 7 troops this time. Especially Lingxi, with the addition of exclusive talents, it is simply a maddening existence. Every time the staff waved, a large amount of monsters would die under the attack of its wooden thorns and leaves. Then, with a single finger, a Seventh Order tree demon would be summoned, and it would rush into the beast group and pump out the monsters one by one. Other plants are also extremely powerful under the addition of its 10% attribute aura. More than 20 large tree spirit generals stopped in front, wildly swinging their huge arms, like a bulldozer, smashing those rushing monsters into flesh. In particular, the tree spirit generals who were equipped with the black turtle shield and armored moss launched a savage charge, forcibly pushing the monsters back. At the same time, the innumerable vines were like swimming snakes, shuttling between plants, tying up all the fish that slipped through the net, and draining their blood completely. But the most active is the twin mushroom army, led by the Mushroom Demon King. Together with the cactus warriors, they vigorously threw large pieces of mushrooms and thorn at the monsters. Boom boom dash. With a violent explosion, the monsters in the entire range were blown out, and a large area was instantly vacated. And the Seventh Order Demon King Dragon and the Demon Concubine Dragon in the sky specially picked Seventh Order monsters to attack, not giving them a chance to rush into the formation. Kill the Sixth Order Black Ice Poisonous Ants and gain 102 magic energy. Kill the Sixth Order Gargoyle and gain 104 magic energy. Kill the Seventh Order Skeleton Knight to gain 498 magic energy. As the monsters fell one after another, a prompt sounded in Lin Yu's mind. The magic energy obtained by killing the Seventh Order monsters has been directly increased by 5 times, reaching about 500 points. I can tell. The magic energy income provided by the monsters is not too high, at least much less than Lin You expected. But even so, under this huge number of bases, his magic energy is still growing rapidly, breaking through 250,000 in a blink of an eye, and approaching 300,000. But the cost is also very tragic. In less than 5 minutes, he lost more than 10 Sixth Order arms, and other arms also suffered a lot of trauma. Seeing that the injuries of the plants are getting worse, the 3 Seventh Order elves in the team immediately flew high into the sky, and a strong green light erupted from their bodies. Healing light. In an instant, all the plant troops below were shrouded in light, and the injuries on his body began to recover quickly. In a blink of an eye, it was back in full swing. So strong. Several other lords on the side looked at him involuntarily. It's not that they were shocked by Lin Yu's group therapy, but they found that Lin Yu alone blocked nearly 30% of the monsters. Even those Seventh Order monsters, many died under the attack of those plant troops, which made their pressure plummet. Is this his strength? Among the monsters, Mangqingan looked at Lin Yu, who was giving orders to the plants in surprise. He now finally understands why the Lord of Muyuan City was easily wiped out. Based on Lin Yu's current strength, few of the lords present would be his opponents. At the same time, he felt extremely happy. I'm glad that I have a long-term vision and have a good relationship with Lin You in advance, otherwise I don't know when it will be destroyed. After thinking about it, he withdrew his gaze and concentrated on commanding the surrounding mechanical arms. Although his mechanical hound and mecha spider are not as powerful as Lin Yu's plants, they are not much weaker. One by one, the forts were set up, and the rushing monsters were bombarded indiscriminately. The monsters roared again and again, but it was difficult to get close to half a minute. At this time, the advantages of the large-scale group attacking arms were finally manifested, and an explosion was a large area. Especially the Mushroom Demon King, beside Lin You. Under the addition of double the explosive power and range, it is almost like a god. In less than 10 minutes, a reminder sounded in Lin Yu's mind. Congratulations! The experience of the twin mushrooms and the king of mushrooms has reached the full value and meets the requirements for upgrading to the 7th level. Do you want to upgrade? Upgrade! Lin Yu was pleasantly surprised. He didn't expect that the experience of the demon king of the mushroom would reach its full value so quickly. This is also his first mushroom soldier to reach the 7th rank, and he can't help but look forward to it. In the blink of an eye, the Mushroom Demon King was enveloped in a ray of light. The body that originally only reached Lin Yu's thighs quickly grew taller and larger, and mushrooms of different shapes appeared. And the mushroom cap on its head. It has also gradually changed from the previous red to a gorgeous color, which looks both weird and funny. Name: Variety Poisonous Mushroom. Mushroom Demon King, Royal Family. Race: Plant. Level: Level 7, 0/2500. Strength: 700. Physique: 835. Agility: 835. Spirit: 924. Skills: Explosive Mushroom, Blasting Mastery, Fission, Ever-Changing. Various mushrooms can grow on the body of the variety poisonous mushroom, and the effects triggered by the explosion are also different. Introduction: One of the two major branches of the 7th order mushroom, it integrates all kinds of mushrooms, and can control the types of mushrooms that grow on the body at will. The Mushroom Demon King, who has risen to the 7th rank, has simply inherited its usual quirky and evasive temperament, and even the advanced form is very funny. There is no need for Lin You to issue orders. As soon as he advanced, he ran up and took off a few white mushrooms from his body and threw them into the air. Boom! A loud explosion. The white mushrooms turned into a cloud of smoke and instantly enveloped the monsters underneath, making Lin You stare blankly. That's it? He thought that this unusual mushroom would have any effect, but it exploded, and then not even a monster was blown up? I'm afraid it's not evolutionary failure. However, what Lin You didn't expect was that just when he thought that the king of mushrooms was emptying his cannons, the monsters below, shrouded in white smoke, suddenly rolled their eyes and fell to the ground one after another. They all fell into a coma. This is Sleepy Mushroom. Lin You was stunned as he looked at the large piece of the fallen monster, like wheat that had been cut off, and fell to the ground. Without even resisting, he was easily killed by other plants, and he did not wake up again until he died. Then, the Mushroom Demon King took off a few spotted mushrooms from his body and threw them into the monster group on the other side. It exploded in the middle of the group of monsters, and a large cloud of red smoke spread out. The monsters that were still roaring at them at first turned around one after another, collided with each other on the spot, and made a mess in the blink of an eye. Chaos Poisonous Mushroom. Looking at the picture in front of him, Lin You was even more astonished, and finally understood where the variety of the king of mushrooms had changed. This is simply a treasure bag of poisonous mushrooms. He didn't expect that the Mushroom Demon King would become so powerful after he advanced, which was beyond his expectations. With the addition of the 7th order Mushroom Demon King, the strength of Lin Yu's team increased instantly. Pieces of monsters fell in front of them, forming hills on the plain, and the ground was directly dyed bright red. Lin You was a little sorry. If Qingting was there, I am afraid that he would have gone crazy by sucking blood and killed him. Of course, he was just thinking about it. With Qingting's current movement speed, it is estimated that it is enough to get here. After thinking about it, he continued to command the troops around him, and kept rushing to kill in the group of monsters. After the initial panic, the other lords gradually stabilized the situation, blocking the monsters around the crack and preventing them from breaking through the line of defense. Especially the beast lord that Lin You noticed before. Directly let the double-headed flood dragon spray a poison pool on the ground, and all the monsters that entered the pool were poisoned to death. And the Thunder Eagles around him flew into the air under the leadership of 10 7th Order Thunder Eagles, and slashed down into arcs, making it impossible for those monsters to get close to half a point. From the looks of it, it was easier to defend than Lin You. Until half an hour passed. The monsters rushing out of the cracks began to gradually decrease and become sparser. Is it over? A lord with undead zombies said in surprise. The attack of the monster just now almost damaged nearly half of his troops. It was also fortunate that his zombies had infection skills, and he could barely hold on by infecting some monsters as companions. The other lords on the side were also not much better. The troops around him were more or less affected and lost a lot. Only Lin You and the Beast Lord's team were relatively complete, but they were also very tired. Seeing that the number of monsters gradually decreased, all the lords began to shrink the encirclement circle with their troops and gathered in the direction of the crack. Because they didn't forget what the prompt said. Destroy the cracks to get resources and treasure rewards. So gradually, the atmosphere around the entire crack began to become subtle, and each lord secretly stared at the others, for fear of being one step ahead. Unexpectedly, they had just come to the place where the crack was less than 100 meters away, and the crack in front of them suddenly clicked and began to shake violently. There are even cracks on the side, which continue to spread around. What's the matter? How did the crack get bigger again? The expressions of the lords changed, and they all stopped moving forward. Immediately afterwards, a dazzling light group appeared in the center of the dark crack. The moment he saw that light group, Mangqing'an's pupils suddenly shrank. Careful! However, his reminder was too late. The sound had just sounded, and a terrifying white beam of light suddenly shot out from the crack. The lord with the zombies didn't even have time to react. His chest was pierced by a beam of light, blasting a cloud of blood. The beam of castration continued unabated, and shot straight into the ground behind the lord. Boom! A huge mushroom cloud rose, and the entire plane shook violently. The violent explosion, accompanied by the extremely tyrannical air waves, swept out all around, instantly awakening all the lords. When you look in the direction of the explosion, how can you still see the figure of the undead lord? All that was left was a broken arm and a stump, and a head. All this happened so suddenly. So that all the lords, including Lin You, were shocked with wide-eyed eyes and stood there, unable to realize what happened for a while. And right now, in the dark crack, a huge steel arm suddenly stretched out and grabbed the edge of the crack. Gradually, a mecha giant with a height of dozens of meters slowly passed through the crack and appeared in front of Lin You and others. This is an 8th Order mecha giant. Mangqing'an screamed, and was shocked to the extreme. The other lords took a deep breath after hearing his exclamation, and couldn't help but take a few steps back. How come? How can there be 8th Order monsters in such a place? 8th grade, there is a monster of the 8th Order in such a small crack. Not to mention the weak lords. Even Lin You couldn't believe what he saw was true. If this 8th Order monster escapes from the crack, the surrounding cities will suffer. Not good. It's going through the crack. Everyone, attack the crack, don't let it come out. At this time a lord finally reacted and shouted to the others. The rest of the lords are not fools and know what's at stake. Seeing that half of the mecha giant's body had passed through the crack, he immediately led their respective units to rush up and attack them frantically. Lin Yu's movements were not slow. In a blink of an eye, he brought the plants to the edge of the crack, and vines rushed out, tying the arm of the mecha giant, trying to limit its movements. However, the mecha giant just tore off all the vines with a slight pull, then raised his arm and slammed down. Flick away. The lords exclaimed again and again and fled to the surroundings. However, there were still some slow-moving units that didn't have time to escape, and were directly smashed into crumbs with a loud bang. The rest of the troops were blasted out by the diffused air waves, and they fell hard. Group therapy. Lin You, who stabilized his body, immediately gave orders to several elves around him. The next second, the elves flew high into the sky, and a ray of light erupted from the staff, wrapping the plants underneath and the troops of other lords, and constantly repairing their injuries. When the other lords saw this, they immediately cast a grateful look at him. But immediately, the other arm of the mechanical giant also stretched out from the crack, with both hands on the ground, and a large group of rays of light suddenly converged on its mouth. Be careful. It's the beam just now. Mang Qingyan knew the mechanical department best, and hurriedly reminded him aloud. The lords turned pale when they heard the words, "How dare they keep their hands, and let the troops use the bottom protection skills of the pressure box." In an instant, the light flashed. A light curtain appeared in front of him. Lin You even directly let the thorn shield black turtle equipped on the Dryad General use the turtle shield mirror wall. The 5-layer 7th order mirror wall forms a thick barrier in front of all the plants. Whoosh whoosh. 3 beams shot out from the mecha giant's mouth at the same time, slamming into the protection in front of them, making a burst of explosions. In the blink of an eye, all protections were instantly shattered. The 3 beams turned into death lasers and swept towards them, and even the shield of the 7th order thorn shield black turtle could not resist for long. Fortunately, Lin You reacted fast enough, and quickly evacuated with his troops. Boom! Another huge mushroom cloud rose up. Dozens of troops were blasted out, and 2 lords couldn't escape, and were directly bombed and seriously injured. Now, attack the crack next to it. The remaining lords did not have time to take care of others, and immediately surrounded them again, launching a frantic attack on the cracks. For a time, the sky was full of brilliance, and the cracks and the mecha giants were instantly submerged. Because they are very clear, if you want to solve the 8th order mecha giant, it is impossible to rely on the frontal rigidity. They can only rely on the power of the crack to smash it, and they have a chance to win. Gradually, the cracks around the mecha giant's body began to shake violently, causing Lin You and the others to tremble. There is a play. With a cry of surprise, he immediately stepped up his attack. And the mechanical giant seems to be stuck in the crack because of forcibly passing through the crack, making the crack more unstable. If you're enjoying my content, please consider donating a coffee. Or checking out my shirts on TeePublic. Crack! Suddenly, a crisp sound entered everyone's ears. Lin You, who were still vigilant about the movement of the mecha giant, suddenly showed ecstasy. And under their combined attack, the entire space crack was finally about to be unsupported and began to shrink slowly. As long as they are completely smashed, they can get rewards such as relics, architectural blueprints, troops, and props. How dare they keep their hands, and they all took out the means of pressing the bottom of the box, all wanting to grab the ownership of the reward. Naturally, Lin You no longer reserved it. The mushroom troops and cactus warriors around him frantically bombarded the cracks with long range. But what he didn't expect was, at this time, several 7th order thunder eagles around the beast lord suddenly roared, and a large dazzling thunder light appeared on his body. In an instant, the dense lightning descended and smashed into the crack, making the space tremble even more violently. Seeing this, Lin Yu's expression changed immediately, and he immediately gave orders to the Demon King Dragon and Demon Concubine Dragon in the air, through spiritual contact. The 2 Demon King Dragons and the 2 Demon Concubine Dragons received the order to directly launch the Swift Shadow skill to fly high into the sky, circling rapidly above the crack. Suddenly, a violent gust of wind blew up, and instantly swept the entire crack and the mecha giant, and the surrounding ground was also lifted up. This is... The other lords widened their eyes in shock, but they didn't expect Lin You to have such means. The mecha giant in the gust of wind roared again and again, frantically swung its huge arms, and after smashing a large number of troops, it was finally clamped by the ever-shrinking crack. In the end, the crack collapsed and turned into a void of destruction. Its huge body was also twisted into pieces under the turbulent flow of the terrifying space. Even the troops near the center of the crack were sucked and pulled in, and no one was spared. At the same time, a prompt also sounded in Lin Yu's mind. Congratulations, you successfully destroyed the space crack and obtained the architectural blueprint, Magic Tower. Even other lords were prompted to receive 30,000 mana rewards for assisting in destroying the cracks. However, Lin Yu didn't care about these, but looked at the blueprint in his hand with great excitement. Building name, Magic Tower. Building level, First Order, can be upgraded. Building introduction, spend the corresponding materials and magical energy to make various magical products. The higher the level, the more items can be made. Construction requirements, 150 wood, 150 stone, 300 magic energy. Magic Tower. Lin Yu looked overjoyed. The reward for destroying the crack this time was actually giving him an architectural blueprint, and it was the Magic Tower he had always wanted. The reason why he was able to escape from the blocked area at the beginning was precisely because of the migration orb made by the Magic Tower. He had been looking forward to this magical building for a long time, but he did not expect to get it in this way. How dare you read more? Immediately put the drawings in your personal space and save them well, and then look around. As predicted, the other lords all looked towards him, and there was a hint of movement in their eyes. With such a big movement just now, no matter how stupid they are, they know that the reward is in Lin Yu's hands, which will inevitably make them feel resentful. But seeing that there were more than 100 troops left by Lin Yu's side, they gradually gave up their thoughts. Offending such a powerful enemy for an unknown reward is obviously not worth it. Seeing that the crack disappeared, they did not dare to stay here any longer, and turned and left with their respective arms. As for the Beast Lord, I saw that he took a deep look at Lin Yu and left with his own troops, which surprised Lin Yu. After all, the opponent has more tier 7 arms than him. If you really move your hands, you really don't know who will win and who will lose. Come to think of it, the opponent should not want to lose too many troops, so he gave up the plan to do it. As for the remaining Meng Qinggan and the Lord of Shenyang City, they came to Lin Yu and congratulated him. No way, the strength that Lin Yu showed just now was really terrifying. Even if they were given a few more courage, they would not dare to the reward he just got. Especially the Lord of Shenyang City, that is a fearful person, for fear that Lin Yu will destroy him. After all, his territory is so close to here. After chatting a few words and getting familiar with it, he hurried back to Shenyang City, daring not to stay for a long time. Since this is the case, then I will go back first. Brother Lin Yu, we will have a chance to talk later. Seeing that everyone was gone, Meng Qinggan said to Lin Yu. Okay. Lin Yu nodded, also jumped onto the back of the Demon King Dragon, and left directly with the rest of the troops. Soon, he walked through the forest and returned to the territory. As soon as he landed, he quickly came under the Tree of Life, took out the architectural drawings he just got, and chose to build. Swish! A light flashed. A tower different from the Tower of Arms appeared on the open space, and it was quickly established, and mysterious runes gradually floated around it. Congratulations, the Magic Tower was successfully built, please go to the building to check the details. As a prompt sounded in his mind, Lin Yu hurriedly walked into the Magic Tower and opened the interface to check. Immediately afterwards, 3 classification options came into his eyes. Magic items, magic enchanting, magic potion. There is still an enchantment? Lin Yu was surprised to open the enchantment category, and sure enough, there were rows of enchantment options with different effects. First class sharpness, increases the attack power by a small amount, and can only enchant weapons. First class gust of wind, obtain the blessing of gust of wind, which can temporarily increase the movement speed. First degree anti-shock, part of the damage received by the anti-shock can only be enchanted on protective gear. Then, Lin Yu took a look at the props and potions separately, and found that there are indeed many magical props and potions with magical effects, and the materials required for making them are also different. Although they are only first level, but when he upgrades the building level in the future, it is impossible to get a set of magic equipment and items for self-defense for himself. It can also be used to improve the strength of the lords under his hands, or to sell it to other lords. Looks like we need to speed up mining. Lin You sighed and withdrew from the magic tower. Although he knew that he couldn't be in a hurry, when he thought that there were still so many buildings to be built and upgraded, he couldn't help but feel a little anxious, wishing to upgrade all the buildings to full level. With this idea in mind, he also quickly came to the hero transformation pool and called over the Mushroom Demon King, who had just risen to the 7th rank. The Mushroom Demon King also seemed to feel that he was going to become stronger, so he immediately left the little mushroom brother beside him and ran into the pool with joy. Immediately afterwards, a prompt sounded. Transforming the 7th order arms requires 70,000 mana, do you want to convert? Yes. Just after killing the monster, Lin Yu's magic energy has risen to nearly 300,000, and 70,000 has no pressure on him. And as his voice fell, the monster Mushroom King's body also began to be enveloped by a dazzling light slowly seeping into his body. After a while, the attributes of the Mushroom Demon King changed drastically. Name, Variety Poisonous Mushroom Mushroom Demon King, Royal Family. Race, Plant, Hero. Level 7, 0/2500. Strength, 700. Physique, 835. Agility, 835. Spirit, 1000. Skills, Explosive Mushroom, Explosion Mastery, Fission, Ever-Changing. Mushroom Spores, after the mushroom explodes, a large number of spores will spread to attach to the enemy, grow rapidly and cause a secondary explosion. Introduction, a unit that integrates all kinds of mushrooms. You can control the types of mushrooms that grow on your body at will, with many changes and hard to prevent. The exclusive talent realized by the Demon King mushroom turned out to be a large-scale delayed secondary explosion. Lin You was surprised. Originally, the explosive power of the Mushroom Demon King was already terrifying. Now coupled with this exclusive talent, it is simply a weapon for group battles. Lin You could even imagine it. A picture of the Mushroom Demon King exploding mushrooms, and all the enemies were covered with mushrooms and then killed on the spot. It's really unstoppable. Counting Lingxi and Qingting, he now has 3 heroic units by his side, which made him feel a little high-spirited. Then, he looked at the magic energy, and there were 220,000 left. It was even 20,000 more than when he first set off today. The only pity is that the kill of the 8th Order Mecha Giant did not count for him, otherwise his magic energy would be a little more. Lord, there is something to report to your subordinates. At this moment, a shout suddenly sounded outside the territory, interrupting his thinking. Listening to the voice, it seems to be Wei Gang. Without thinking too much, he directly turned off the interface and asked Qingting to make way for him. After a while, Wei Gang walked through the vine forest and hurried into the territory. Is there a problem? Lin You asked suspiciously. Lord. Wei Gang clasped his fists slightly. I just received news from the people below that a space collapsed in the depths of the Gobi, and it seems that a space crack is forming. Space cracks? Lin You was shocked. Is it far from us? Not far, only 30 kilometers away. Okay, you bring the others to the city for defense first. I'll go take a look. Lin Yu's face was extremely solemn. Unexpectedly, a crack appeared near his territory. This is not a good sign. He had just experienced a big war, and he lost a lot of troops. Moreover, Huangsha City was originally located in a remote location, with only Shuangya City and Shenyang City nearby. The other lords have just been hit hard, and it is obviously impossible to rush over in a short time. That is to say, he wants one person to block all the monsters rushing out of the crack. This is no joke. If the 8th Order monster appears again, it will definitely be a devastating blow to him. After thinking about it, Lin You did not hesitate any longer, and left the territory with the remaining more than 180 proliferating arms and all the 7th Order except Qingting, and hurried to the location Wei Gang said. When he spent 20 minutes, he came to a rocky area in the Gobi. Sure enough, I saw that many practitioners were surrounding a space that was on the verge of being broken, watching from a distance. And his appearance also caused a commotion among the practitioners. However, Lin You was too lazy to pay attention to this, staring directly at the space where cracks had begun to appear, his brows gradually wrinkled. The space is not big, but it is not much smaller than the one he encountered in Xianyang City just now. Vaguely, there was even a strange breath of life spreading around, causing the wild grass in the entire area to grow wildly, looking extremely strange. This terrifying picture suddenly caused many practitioners to retreat, not daring to stay for a long time. And over time, that piece of space began to become more and more unstable, and even vibrated violently. Finally, in a shattering loud noise, the entire space collapsed completely, and the terrifying power shot straight into the sky, even if it was hundreds of miles away. And this time, the formation of the crack was much faster than Lin You expected. In the blink of an eye, a space crack that seemed to devour everything appeared in front of them, causing everyone to tremble in unison. Coming soon. A 6th Order cultivator couldn't help shouting loudly. Next second, a dark vine suddenly spread out from the crack, accompanied by a huge black gas. Wherever the black chi went, the plants soared, rose from the ground, and gradually twisted into terrifying plants, spreading out around them. In the cracks, a large number of bizarre plant-type monsters emerged, flower demons taller than buildings, tree demons covered with thorns, and even tentacles with countless human faces. They were all monsters that Lin You had never seen before. It's like a monster crawling out of the abyss. Lingxi, you take half of the plants to guard there, don't let them rush out. Lin You hurriedly shouted at Lingxi, beside him. This space crack is too close to Huangsha City. If it is not destroyed quickly, more and more monsters will only emerge. When the time comes, let alone Huangsha City, I am afraid that his territory will also be besieged by monsters. Once the number reaches a certain level, or there is an 8th Order monster, then he is not far from death. So without the slightest hesitation, he immediately rushed towards the crack with half of his arms. Lingxi, on the other hand, took the other half of the troops to block the monsters from the other direction. When those cultivators saw this, they followed closely behind them, wanting to take the opportunity to pick up the leeks and earn magic crystals. In the blink of an eye, the plant-type monsters that emerged from the cracks collided fiercely with the plant troops around Lin You. The first to take action is the Fairy Legion with long-range attack ability. The staff in his hand waved, summoning a 7th Order tree demon, blocking those rushing monsters. Then a row of more than 20 tree spirit generals entered the arena with rumbling footsteps and launched a savage charge to push those monsters back. The blood enchantress at the back used vines to support them, restraining the black vines and tentacles that were swimming. At this time, the king of the mushroom demon and the other twin mushrooms had already jumped on the rocks on both sides and threw a lot of mushrooms down. Boom boom dash. The violent explosion sounded, causing the surrounding rocks to vibrate violently, and the stones kept shaking off. The grand and exaggerated scene suddenly made the eyes of the nearby practitioners widen. This was the first time for them to see Lin You attack with all his strength. In just a few breaths, countless 6th Order monsters fell under the attack of the plants, which was terrifying. However, this scene only lasted for less than 2 minutes, and then things began to change on the other side of the crack. One by one, more majestic plant monsters began to emerge from it. Whoosh! Whoosh! A loud bang sounded. Several vines with venom suddenly rose into the sky, tying the demon concubine dragon that just flew over the crack. Wow! The demon concubine let out a long roar, desperately shaking the vines away from her body. But the poison on the vines penetrated into its body, corroded most of its wings, and crashed to the ground. Tier 7 monsters. Lin You was shocked. Immediately let the blood demon princess drag the seriously injured and dying demon concubine dragon back with vines. At the same time, hundreds of seventh-order monsters passed through the cracks, fluttering in the sky with poisonous vines, and frantically attacking his troops. Gradually, his armies began to collapse, and there were continuous armies suffering heavy losses, struggling to support the treatment of the elves. Sure enough, it is still too difficult for one person to deal with the monster group. But no way. If this hidden danger is not solved now, the chances in the future will be even slimmer. After thinking about it, Lin You became ruthless. Let the remaining 2 demon king dragons and 2 demon concubine dragons fly high into the sky and circle quickly. In an instant, a gust of wind blew, flying sand and stone. Those 7th-order monsters that had just passed through the cracks were instantly enveloped by this gust of wind, and together with the surrounding 6th-order monsters, they were also swept into the air, turning into piles of rotten wooden branches and falling down. It has to be said that the combined skills of the Demon King Dragon and the Demon Concubine Dragon are still very powerful. Even those 7th-order monsters, many died on the spot, or were seriously injured and dying. Nice job. Lin You couldn't help but sigh. With this one blow, nearly half of the 7th-order monsters were dealt with, and their pressure plummeted. Look! What is that? However, at this moment, an exclamation from the practitioners suddenly came from the side, accompanied by the exclamations of the practitioners. From the crack in the distance, a large terrifying black gas suddenly emerged. Boom! Boom! The sound like the beating of a heart spread to the ears of everyone present. Gradually, a huge black shadow with a height of tens of meters appeared above the space crack and slowly passed through. The first thing that caught my eye was the giant rhizomes like octopus tentacles, constantly swimming outside the cracks in space. And those rhizomes are covered with dense sarcoma protrusions, and a large amount of green thick water is constantly flowing out, which looks extremely terrifying. However, this is not the most terrifying. I saw that at the top of the giant rhizomes entangled with each other, in the center where countless sarcomas gathered, there was a huge heart that was beating constantly. On the sarcoma next to it, there are also strange human faces. Crying, laughter, pain, and wailing, all kinds of voices kept echoing in my ears, as if haunted by resentful spirits, making people shudder. What is a twisted plant? Don't say that Lin You hasn't seen it. I am afraid that many lords have never seen it. And just when he was inexplicably horrified, the attributes of the plant also came into his eyes. Name, thousand-faced vine, corruption. Race, plant. Level, level 8. Strength, 1000. Physique, 1000. Agility, 1000. Spirit, 2500. Skills, devouring corpses, quickly recovering injuries, confused. The faces on the thousand-faced vines have a strong confounding effect, which can confuse and control the enemy. Corrupt surrounding monsters and make them produce mutate, fall into madness, and improve some attributes. Root cause of corruption, thousand-faced vines will not die, and the corrupted monsters around them will continue to regenerate, never ending. Introduction. Plants polluted by demonic energy are not aggressive in themselves, but they can corrupt the surrounding demons and mutate. Wherever they go, all living beings are destroyed. 8th Order Monster. Lin You was completely shocked. Unexpectedly, there is also an 8th Order here. That's not the most important thing. The most unimaginable thing for him is that this thousand-faced vine actually has the same exclusive skills as his hero troops. As long as it doesn't die, the surrounding monsters will continue to regenerate and improve their attributes. Doesn't that mean that the 7th Order monsters he killed just now will be reborn? Was thinking. A large black gas suddenly emerged from the thousand-faced strange vine and spread out around it. It was really as Lin You guessed. The shattered corpses of the monsters stood up again under the envelope of black gas. Fuck. Seeing this picture, even if he was as calm as Lin You, he couldn't help but let out a foul language. How dare you be in a daze, and immediately summoned all the plants to attack the thousand-faced vines. Because he is very clear. If the thousand-faced vines continue to survive, there will only be more and more corrupted monsters around. The longer it drags on, the worse it will be for him. Full speed ahead. With Lin Yu's cry, all the troops activated their skills one after another, madly cleaning the surrounding plants, and kept approaching the thousand-faced vines. For a time, the vines and thorns flew and exploded continuously. The entire fissure was surrounded by a chaotic battle. Fortunately, the corrupted black gas of the thousand-faced vine has no effect on his units. Under the disturbance of the seventh-order Mushroom Demon King's group-controlled mushrooms and the alluring poisonous mist of the seductive banshee, those monsters blocking the way were finally washed away. Lin You drove straight in with the commander of the plant army, and in a blink of an eye came to the thousand-faced vine. Looking at the huge rhizomes that were swaying wildly, he immediately issued an order to directly attack the heart on top. Available in the next second. Something unexpected happened to him. Just listening to the face on the thousand-faced vines suddenly opened their eyes, and they let out a terrifying scream, which made the whole surrounding air begin to distort. The plants that were just about to attack were instantly disturbed by the sound and scurried around in place. Together with Lin You, they all felt dizzy and weak in their limbs. Those seventh-order arms are okay, and they will be out of control in a while. But those sixth orders started to attack each other because of their level suppression, and they couldn't tell the difference between enemy and me. Puff. Suddenly, the sound of plants being pierced sounded. The two seventh-order blade shadow lions, who were opening the way in the front, were penetrated by the roots of the thousand-faced vine and died on the spot. Lin You suddenly woke up. However, he found that his troops had already begun to rout across the board. In the blink of an eye, more than 20 tier SIXs died under the sneak attack of those monsters. Even the way they approached the thousand-faced vines was blocked again by the emerging monsters, making it difficult to enter. Damn. Lin Yu's face was heavy, and he immediately awakened those chaotic plants through spiritual connection and regrouped. In less than a few minutes, his arms have dropped by nearly 30%. Seeing that the monsters they killed were gradually resurrected under the shroud of black chi, Lin You finally showed a hint of urgency on his face. Lord! Here we come. But at this moment, a loud shout suddenly came from a distance. Hundreds of figures appeared on horses and ran towards him. The leader was Wei Gang, who stayed in Huangsha City to gather people. Wei Gang? Why are you here? Lin You took advantage of the gap between the troops to resist the monsters, and turned to look at Wei Gang, who had come to the battle circle. Behind Wei Gang, there are hundreds of sixth-order practitioners. Lin You couldn't remember that there were so many sixth-order practitioners in Huangsha City. Wei Gang seemed to see Lin Yu's puzzlement, and quickly explained, Lord, forgive me, it was my subordinate who made an assertion, and asked Director Shui to use all the funds to temporarily issue a summoning order to summon the surrounding practitioners to come and help. With that, he jumped off his horse and quickly came to Lin Yu. Lin Yu was shocked when he heard the words, and he couldn't care less, and said directly, okay. Good job, you immediately take them to help me block those sixth-order monsters, and tell them by the way, help block the monsters, the reward is doubled. By now. Lin You couldn't care less. Anyway, he still has more than 200,000 magical energy, plus the hundreds of thousands of funds in Huangsha City, it should be enough to hire those cultivators. As long as this dimensional crack can be destroyed, it will all be worth it. And those cultivators who came over were also very excited when they heard his call. Even those cultivators who were about to retire immediately changed their minds and returned to join them. As the saying goes, there must be a brave man under the heavy money. The team around Lin You grew to nearly 300 at once. In the blink of an eye, the situation changed again. Kill! The practitioners roared and joined the battle one after another, killing those sixth-order monsters that had just been resurrected. Under the treatment of the elves and the wood spirit, they also fought more and more bravely, and gradually brought the situation back. As for Lin You, he led the troops around him to deal with the 7th-tier troops that were getting up, preventing them from having a chance to regenerate, and blocking the remaining 7th-tier troops by the way. The whole surrounding was once again caught in a big melee, and the screams of killing were continuous. Finally, after losing 5 7th Order and dozens of 6th Order arms, Lin You finally led the arms to the thousand-faced vine again. And this time Lin You took precautions. Without giving the thousand-faced vine a second chance to scream, the remaining 3 7th Order blade shadow lions around him turned into streamers and shot out. Swish swish. The giant rhizomes that hold them up are all cut open. At the same time, the power of nature of the Demon King Dragon and Demon Concubine Dragon in the sky has also been restored. Immediately activate the Swift Shadow skill and suddenly fly high into the sky. In an instant, the wind and clouds are surging. The 2 Demon King Dragons and the 2 Demon Concubine Dragons were divided into 2 pairs, and a terrifying hurricane blew up on the left and right sides of the thousand-faced creepy vine. Whether it's a monster that has just passed through the crack, or a corrupted monster that has just been resurrected, they were all swept into the air by these 2 hurricanes, shattering into countless debris, leaving the surroundings of the thousand-faced vine instantly empty. Good chance. Hurry up and attack its heart. That beating heart is obviously the weakness of the vine with thousands of faces. Under Lin Yu's order, the remaining plants attacked immediately. For a while, the vines were flying, mushrooms and thorn crossed the parabola in the air and landed on the heart of the thousand-faced vine. Boom! The whole air shook violently. He heard a whimper from the vine in front of him, all the faces on his body became twisted, and then all his mouth opened, and a terrifying sonic boom suddenly sounded all around. The sonic boom was like a substance, and it turned into a wave of air and swept out. Although Lin You was prepared, he covered his ears. But he was the closest to the thousand-faced vine, and he was instantly shocked with blood and tears, and he half-knelt on the ground. Together with the 6th Order troops around him, they all exploded one after another, killing him on the spot. Not to mention those practitioners, one by one, the eardrums ruptured, and the 7 orifices bleed and fell to the ground. This is obviously the desperate fight of the thousand-faced vine. Lingxi, Lin You tried his best and shouted forward. As Lin Yu's subordinate Lingxi, with the strongest comprehensive strength, although it is also affected by the sonic boom at this moment, it can still barely support it. I saw it raised the staff in its hand high, and an unprecedented dazzling light erupted. Immediately after, the force of nature quickly gathered in front of it, turned into a wooden thorn in the sky, and suddenly shot out at the heart of the thousand-faced vine. Puff! The heart shattered and was instantly stabbed into a hornet's nest by the wooden thorns. And the whimper of the thousand-faced vine also stopped abruptly. But what followed was a bang-bang explosion. Those corrupted monsters actually exploded one by one, bursting into pools of thick water. In the blink of an eye, the entire crack is surrounded by thick water flowing, dyeing the ground a terrifying black-green. And after the death of the thousand-faced vine, the space crack finally collapsed completely, began to shrink rapidly, turned into a dot in a blink of an eye, and disappeared into the Gobi. There was silence all around. There was only Lin Yu's breathing and the sound of the breeze blowing across the Gobi. A while. Lin Yu Kai recovered from the shock just now and collapsed to the ground. At the same time, several reminders sounded in his mind. Kill the 8th Order corrupted monster and gain 10,000 magic energy. Congratulations, you have successfully destroyed the space crack, and rewards are being distributed. Successful distribution of rewards, get plant-based sacred artifact, barbaric growth. The sound fell instantly. A sacred crystal wrapped in a light group appeared in front of Lin Yu. Taking a closer look, there is still a miniature version of an ancient tree growing inside the crystal, exuding the breath of life. Sacred artifact name, Savage Growth, Plant. Level 1, all attributes, plus 8%, injury recovery, plus 10%. Level 2, unlocked all attributes, plus 8%, injury recovery, plus 10%. Level 3, unlocked all attributes, plus 8%, injury recovery, plus 10%. Level 4, unlocked territory skill Woodland Guardian. Characteristics. Within the territory, the growth rate of plants is increased by 100%, the attributes of troops are increased by 8%, and the recovery of injuries is increased by 10%. Saint. Lin You suddenly cheered up. After killing the thousand-faced vine, I actually obtained a plant-based sacred artifact. The effect is strong, even far beyond his current basic sacred artifact. And there are territory blessings. As long as this holy artifact is equipped, the growth rate of the plants in his territory will be doubled directly, and even the attributes will be increased. And his subjects can also obtain blessing effects through prayer. Simply perverted. As long as there is this sacred object, the comprehensive strength of the people in his territory will surpass other territories, and the attraction to those cultivators will be greatly increased. Call. Lin You couldn't help but let out a sigh of relief. With such a powerful attribute, he finally didn't waste his energy. Carefully put the holy relic into the personal space, then raised his head and looked around. The scene at this time can only be described with the words horrible. Not to mention all of his 6th-tier arms were killed suddenly, and even 17th-tier arms were left with only 17, including Lingxi, the Mushroom Demon King, and 2 Demon King dragons. There are 3 each of the Demon Concubine Dragon, the Blade Shadow Lion, and the Thorn Shield Mysterious Tortoise. Plus 2 goblins and 2 sprites. A full loss of 7 7th order. Including the 2 Banshee Vines, were attacked to death in the melee. It is several times more tragic than when facing the Mecha Giant. It is also due to the fact that the ontology attribute of the thousand-faced strange vine is not high, otherwise, if he encounters the powerful 8th order single, I am afraid he will really explain it here. Hard to support the body. With the few remaining 7th order arms, he came to Wei Gang and the practitioners who had fallen to the ground, and began to treat them. These cultivators helped him a lot, but of course he couldn't just watch them die. So soon, a piece of fluorescent light scattered, wrapping all the practitioners, and slowly healing their wounds. Fortunately, they were all far away, the injuries were not too serious, and they had the blessing of the territory. It didn't take long for him to wake up one after another. What surprised Lin You was that, after going through this life and death test, Wei Gang managed to break through to the 6th rank, his aura was suddenly raised, and even most of his injuries were healed. As soon as he woke up, he got up quickly. Lord. Are you all right? While shouting, he looked around anxiously. When he saw Lin You standing beside him, and the messy picture around him, his pupils shrank even more. It's all right, how's it going? Isn't the injury serious? Lin You asked with a smile. Not serious. Wei Gang shook his head. It seems that because of the breakthrough, all the wounds on my body have healed. That's good. Lin You said softly, now that the matter has been resolved, you can go back to Huangsha City with them first, and report the city's safety. I'll check the surrounding area before going back. Yes. After all, Wei Gang left with the practitioners. Lin You, on the other hand, rode the Demon King Dragon and walked around the neighborhood. It was not until it was confirmed that no fish slipped through the net that he rushed back to the territory with his troops. And this time, Shuichanggue and other stewards had long been waiting outside Huangsha City with a team of guards. As soon as he saw Lin You riding on the Demon King Dragon, he immediately greeted him. Lord, are you all right? Shuichanggue walked at the front and asked anxiously. Although he had heard Wei Gang talk about the situation, he couldn't help but be a little worried. I'm fine, let's go to the city and talk about it. Lin You rolled over and jumped off the back of the Demon King Dragon and then let the plants return to the territory to recover from their injuries. And he, surrounded by Shuichanggue and others, walked into Huangsha City, attracting countless passers-by to watch. No way, the news of space cracks in the Gobi has already spread in the city. Many businessmen and practitioners fled and left, for fear of being involved in this disaster, making the whole street a lot deserted. If Wei Gang hadn't brought back the news that the crack had been destroyed first, there would have been fewer people on the street. However, Lin You was not worried. While learning about the situation in the territory with Shuechangui, he rushed to the central square, then took out the holy relic that he had just obtained from his personal space and came to the statue. The dazzling brilliance suddenly caused the surrounding people to exclaim. At the same time, an inquiry sounded in Lin Yu's mind. Whether to replace the basic holy relic? Once replaced, it cannot be changed, please consider carefully. Replace. Lin Yu's slightly trembling voice echoed throughout the square. In an instant, the light shines. The sacred object in his hand floated into the air and slowly merged into the statue. Congratulations, the relic was successfully replaced, the current relic, Savage Growth, Plant. With the sound of the prompt, a dazzling green light burst out suddenly, sweeping the entire Huangsha city inside and outside the city in an instant. Under that brilliance full of life breath. Around the square, and even all the streets and alleys in the city, green branches and buds began to grow gradually. Even the trees and crops outside the city are growing at an impressive rate to the naked eye. Simultaneously, around Lin Yu's territory, various plants and flowers began to grow, spreading out towards the surrounding Gobi Desert. It wasn't until half a minute passed that the breath of life gradually dissipated. The entire Huangsha city has turned into a vibrant emerald city in a blink of an eye. This. Shuechangui opened his mouth wide and looked at all this in shock. Even the pedestrians on the street stopped one after another, horrified. Vaguely, it just felt that a breath of life circulated in the city, constantly nourishing their body and mind, as if they were completely integrated into nature. There are several fifth-order cultivators who are cultivating, and they are even more enlightened, breaking through the shackles and successfully breaking through the sixth order. What a strong breath of life. Did something major happen in this yellow sand city? It's amazing. My stagnant cultivation has started to loosen again. I saw the Lord of Huangsha City walking towards the square just now. Could it be that he has replaced it with a new relic? New holy relic? This is too exaggerated, right? I have never seen a holy relic with such a strong effect in those medium and large cities. Doesn't that mean that its blessing effect will also become stronger? Then what are you waiting for? Go and have a look first. Those outside practitioners soon received the news that Lin You had replaced the holy relic, and they ran out of the inn, restaurant or training ground and rushed to the square. When they came to the square, however, I found that behind the statue of the Lord, a big tree had grown up at some point, and its branches and leaves spread out, covering the center of the entire square, echoing the larger tree of life outside the city. This is like a natural wonder, so they can't help but be amazed. However, what shocked them even more was the blessing effect of the new sacred object, which directly increased their strength by nearly 10%. Once the news was confirmed, it immediately spread like a hurricane, spreading both inside and outside Huangsha City, causing a sensation. Even those who had just left were returning one after another. The whole square was overcrowded and witnessed the pomp. And this time, Lin You had already come to the conference hall to listen to Shuechangui's report. Lord, because of the emergency this time, I have to recruit helpers in such a direct way. Please forgive me, Lord. Shuechangui said with guilt. It's okay, you did the right thing this time. Lin You waved his hand at him. If you didn't react in time this time, I'm afraid even I couldn't block those monsters. You indirectly saved Huangsha City, a great achievement. Lord is serious. Shuechangui secretly breathed a sigh of relief. Then I thought of something, and said with some worry, there is one more thing. This time the mission was released to summon practitioners, and it took a lot of magic crystals. I am a little worried that it will affect the operation of Huangsha City. How much did it cost in total? Lin You asked. About 100,000. 100,000. Lin You nodded slightly. Counting the doubling of the reward he said before, the total is 200,000. Fortunately, still within the acceptable range. He was very satisfied that he could use this magic energy to solve a huge crisis and obtain such a powerful holy artifact. And as the Lord of Huangsha City, he naturally has to keep his promise, otherwise he will lose people's hearts and lose more than the gains. After looking at the magic energy that had just risen to 340,000 by killing monsters, he said, I can come out of this magic crystal, and the funds of Huangsha City do not need to be moved. Also, now that the population of Huangsha City has increased, we can start to expand the city. I will allocate another fund later, and you are responsible for making arrangements. Okay, I'll do it now. Shui Changgue said excitedly. Expanding Huangsha City has always been the dream of the people, but he never thought that it would be realized under his hands. You can imagine how excited he was. After resigning, he hurriedly left the conference hall with a few other stewards to deal with what Lin You had explained. Lin You, on the other hand, rushed back to the territory, converted 250,000 magic energy into magic crystals, and deposited them into the working capital of Huangsha City. These magic crystals, plus the hundreds of thousands of working capital in Huangsha City, should be enough to temporarily expand Huangsha City. And the remaining 90,000 mana is enough for him to recruit troops. This time the space crack battle, he can be said to have suffered heavy losses. Not only did all the proliferating arms die, but also 7 7th Order arms died, which freed him up for 7 recruitment positions. Without thinking too much, I directly spent 2,000 mana, recruited 7 silver edge grass with proliferation skills, and then began to mutate. The mutation of the 6th Order troops needs to consume 250 points of mana. Do you want to continue? Continue. The voice fell, the silver grass was wrapped in a ray of light, and the body changed rapidly. When the light dissipated, the silver edge grass mutated into a 6th Order Overlord Piranha. And also inherited the infinite proliferation skills. Luck is good. Since the number of troops has increased, the probability of Lin You mutating to produce piranhas has become much lower, and now there are only 2 in the territory, so he kept this one, and then continued to mutate other silver edge grasses. Swish! Another light flashed. This time, the silver edge grass turned into an advanced form of blood-sucking dandelion, a tall plant wrapped in red dandelions. Name, Bloodthirsty Dandelion. Race, Plant. Level, Level 6, 0/500. Strength, 335. Physique, 388. Agility, 335. Spirit, 400. Skills, Infinite Proliferation, Parasitism, Tracking. Introduction, a very rare plant whose seeds have strong parasitic ability, do not inhale it. Just right, he now lacks a troop for sneak attack and tracking. The appearance of this plant just meets his needs, and saves him spending time researching this troop. After all, he used the Tower of Arms to study low-level arms in a scattered way, and did not focus on one of them. Think about it. He looked at the remaining silver edge grass again and continued to mutate. And in the following few mutations, I don't know if it was because of the exhaustion of luck, there was no new arms or combat arms that inherited the proliferation skills. In desperation, Lin You had to recruit another batch of silver edge grass. It was not until more than 10 times of mutation that the proliferating troops were finally fully mutated. Much to Lin Yu's delight, the last silver-edged grass mutated into another armored moss type. After the split, it turned into 8, just enough to equip both the Demon King Dragon and the Demon Concubine Dragon. Even the ivy, he let an armored moss symbiotically go up. Because of the symbiotic skills of armored moss, it can increase the agility of the symbiotic troops. Although there are only 60 points now, but after reaching the 7th level, it will definitely add more. Isn't it easy to take the big killer Qingting out? Lin Yu also expects it to kill the quartet in the battlefield. Thank you for watching Mystic Realms Recap. Please like, share and subscribe. Have a great day.